A gamer who once complained that every game was far too easy chose the highest possible difficulty and reincarnated as Alan, a peasant child with the rare summoner class. His growth rate is 100 times slower than normal, but that has never stopped him from grinding in silence. 4 years after leaving his hometown, Alan finally returns to the small family house in the middle of a freezing winter. Mash and Mura are sitting by the entrance with their eyes fixed on the sky, waiting for one of Alan's summoned birds to deliver another letter. The moment Mash notices a figure approaching, he immediately recognizes his older brother. Their parents rush outside as well, overwhelmed to see how much their son has grown. Alan, once a small village boy, now carries himself with the calm confidence of someone who has survived countless battles. Mura, however, hides shyly behind her mother. She was only 1 year old when Alan left, so nearly everything she knows about her brother comes from the letters he has sent home. The entire family gathers around the warm fireplace. Roden repeatedly slaps his knee and marvels at how quickly Alan has grown, claiming he almost failed to recognize his own son. Teresia is more concerned about the money Alan will need when he begins his new life in Academy City. Alan calmly answers by placing a pouch containing 100 gold coins on the table. The room falls completely silent. Before his parents can recover, he casually explains that he still has around 600 more from selling iron-armored ants hunted near the foot of the White Dragon Mountains. During the same trip, he also happened to clear several goblin and orc nests. Roden can only shake his head and laugh. Alan has become taller and stronger, but his personality has hardly changed. Events that would be life-or-death struggles for ordinary adventurers sound like minor errands whenever Alan describes them. Unfortunately, the family reunion cannot last long because he must soon leave again to begin the next stage of his journey. Mash enthusiastically announces that once he turns 12, he also intends to take the academy entrance examination and follow his brother's path. Mura continues clutching Alan's old letters and timidly asks whether the man standing before her is truly the same brother Alan who has been writing to her all these years. Alan kneels, smiles, and gently confirms that he is. Only then does Mura gather enough courage to approach and kiss him on the cheek. The small gesture makes Alan understand something important. Sending money and letters home every month may prove that he remembers his family, but neither can replace actually standing beside the people he loves. Before he leaves, the entire family embraces one another tightly. Roden and Teresia ask only that their son remains safe and healthy. Alan says goodbye once more and sets out toward a completely new chapter of his life. Back at the Granville estate, Cecil catches Alan sweeping the courtyard like an ordinary servant. She cannot understand why someone now treated as an honored guest of the family is still voluntarily doing household work. Alan simply smiles and says he wants to help a little more before leaving for the academy. Cecil does not argue, but she quickly moves to a far more serious question. Does Alan truly intend to accompany her to Academy City and eventually follow her onto the battlefield? Cecil is a noblewoman and therefore has obligations she cannot avoid, but none of those duties apply to Alan. He could choose a safer and more comfortable life. Alan calmly reminds her that his promise to protect her was never an empty statement made for convenience. At that moment, a carriage stops outside the estate. Krina jumps down with her usual enthusiasm, while Dagora follows more slowly with a huge pile of luggage strapped to his back. Alan introduces them to Cecil, explaining that she is the daughter of the Granville family he has served for the past 4 years. Cecil greets them politely, and Krina immediately shakes her hand as though they have already been friends for months. The group is then welcomed with a lavish feast. The Duke tells Krina and Dagora to make themselves comfortable, and the two take that invitation very seriously. They begin wolfing down the food so enthusiastically that Alan feels embarrassed on their behalf. Krina is most interested in whether Academy City truly contains as many dungeons and monsters as the rumors claim. She believes that if she keeps training, then by the time she graduates, she will be much closer to achieving her dream of joining a knightly order. Her excitement makes Cecil realize that Alan has not fully explained what awaits them after 3 years at the academy. Their graduation will not simply lead to safe careers or peaceful adventures. They are expected to join a war that has already continued for years. Alan knows he cannot hide that truth forever, but he wants Krina and Dagora to make their own decision after understanding the path clearly. He does not want fear to stop them before the journey has even begun. Because Krina possesses the Sword Saint talent, she will probably receive a noble title after graduation. That honor would also force her to accept military service, just like Cecil. Dagora will have more freedom depending on his achievements at the academy. Deep down, Alan hopes the four of them can become genuine friends and reliable companions. He has even prayed to the goddess Elmia that he might someday gain the ability to view their statistics. For a summoner who calculates every experience point and every magic stone, fighting beside teammates whose abilities remain hidden feels like playing hell mode with most of the interface disabled. 3 days later, Alan, Cecil, Krina, and Dagora leave the estate while the Granville family gathers to see them off. They board an enormous magical airship built using advanced dwarven technology from the Bacchus Empire. From the sky, Academy City appears as a massive urban complex surrounded by countless facilities and dungeons. Before entering, however, they must compete against nearly 20,000 applicants arriving from across the kingdom. Every candidate begins with the appraisal ceremony. Dagora volunteers to go first. His results show A-rank attack growth, B-rank stamina and endurance, and a talent for using axes. Instead of celebrating, Dagora turns pale because the ratings are almost identical to those he received when he was 5 years old. Alan quickly explains that the letters measure growth rate and future potential rather than current strength. An unchanged result does not mean Dagora has made no progress. Cecil is examined next. The orb confirms A-rank mana, S-rank intelligence, and the talent of a mage. The examiner immediately declares that she represents exactly the kind of student the Academy hopes to recruit. Krina places her hand on the orb next, causing it to shine with overwhelming intensity. Her extraordinary statistics appear alongside the unmistakable Sword Saint talent. The examiner recognizes the famous Krina immediately and welcomes her with great enthusiasm. Even so, everyone's attention soon shifts toward the final applicant. Cecil is especially curious to see how the device will react to Alan, who has spent years concealing the true extent of his power. When Alan touches the orb, brilliant light fills the room, and for the first time, his summoner class appears correctly. Unfortunately, every category connected to his growth is rated E. The examiner regretfully informs him that he has failed the preliminary assessment. Cecil immediately protests. A person who defeated Murder Gauche alone cannot possibly be considered unqualified. Alan remains calmer than anyone else. He understands exactly what happened. The old problem that prevented his summoner profession from appearing has finally been corrected, but Hell Mode still reduces his growth rate to 1/100th of normal. Before Cecil can continue arguing, Hero Helmios arrives with the High Elf headmaster. Helmios confirms that he personally witnessed Alan defeating Murder Gauche, meaning the collection of E-rank results clearly does not reflect his real combat ability. The headmaster also remembers a prophecy from the spirit god Rosen concerning a boy whose growth values would all be ranked E. That connection immediately makes Alan's case far more important than a simple examination failure. Helmios uses appraisal directly on Alan. His eyes begin glowing as he sees the hidden statistics behind the misleading results. Alan's mana and intelligence are already comparable to those of a great mage, while several of his other abilities greatly exceed the standard expected of a new student. The strangest detail is that Alan possesses none of the conventional magical systems normally associated with those statistics. Alan is clearly uncomfortable with someone viewing his abilities so thoroughly, so Helmios allows him to perform an appraisal in return. The hero's strength, stamina, endurance, and agility are all rated S, while most of his remaining attributes stand at A. One glance is enough for Alan to understand that Helmios is a physically oriented warrior whose natural foundation completely surpasses that of an ordinary human. Helmios then asks Alan to demonstrate his profession. Alan summons Chorosuke into the palm of his hand. The tiny creature looks far from threatening, but the successful summoning proves beyond doubt that Alan is a genuine summoner. Helmios and the headmaster agree to let him pass the preliminary stage. The group then proceeds to the written examination, which covers mathematics, vocabulary, history, and knowledge of monster behavior. Fortunately, all four manage to pass. The moment they leave the examination area, the group heads directly to the Adventurers Guild to investigate the dungeon system surrounding the city. A guild employee explains that local dungeons are divided into C, B, and A ranks. The final floor of each dungeon contains a boss guarding a treasure chest, and those chests occasionally contain extremely valuable items. The moment Alan hears the word treasure, he changes the subject to long-term resource acquisition. He immediately places an order for 10,000 D-rank magic stones, pays 100 gold coins in advance, and announces that he intends to stockpile at least 2 million stones during his 3 years at the academy. The guild employee, Cecil, Krina, and Dagora all stare at him in disbelief. For Alan, entering school is merely an administrative requirement. His real grinding plan was prepared long before he ever reached the city. All four receive E-rank adventurer cards and are encouraged to register as an official party. When the receptionist asks for a team name, Alan immediately writes down no-life gamers without consulting anyone. Cecil, Krina, and Dagora stare at the card as though wondering whether party membership includes voting rights. Alan proudly explains that no-life gamers are people willing to devote nearly all their time and energy to becoming as strong as possible. In his previous life, he could not play games all day because he still needed to work and earn enough money to survive. In this world, however, fighting monsters and gaining levels are part of everyday life. Alan therefore intends to keep grinding until the entire world runs out of content. Krina and Dagora do not fully understand the explanation, but since Alan appears so satisfied with the name, they reluctantly accept it. After moving into a shared house, Alan and Cecil finally explain the truth about their future to Krina and Dagora. The 3 years at the academy are not simply a period of education. After graduation, they will be sent to the front lines to fight the Demon King's forces. Krina is surprised only briefly before immediately declaring that she will still go. Dagora remains silent for much longer, especially after learning that roughly half of those sent to the battlefield never return alive. Alan refuses to pressure him. This decision concerns Dagora's life, so he has every right to think carefully before answering. Eventually, Dogora asks whether defeating the Demon King would be considered even more impressive than becoming a knight. Once he hears that it would be a legendary achievement, his desire to prove himself overcomes his fear, and he agrees to remain with the party. At that exact moment, Alan's grimoire rises into the air by itself. The names Krina, Cecil Grumvel, and Dogora appear across its pages, officially recognizing them as his companions. Alan immediately begins outlining their preparations. The party will conquer dungeons to gain levels, search for stronger equipment, and recruit a priest capable of reliable healing. Alan himself needs enormous quantities of magic stones and mana because every stage of his development requires 100 times more effort than normal. The treasure he wants most is a ring capable of restoring mana. If he obtains one, the number of summons and magical items he can produce each day will increase dramatically. Cecil finally understands why Alan placed such an enormous order for magic stones immediately after reaching the city. In his mind, the academy, the dungeons, and even the coming war are all parts of a single problem he intends to solve within 3 years. Their first lesson is taught by Karlova, the homeroom teacher responsible for guiding the class throughout all 3 years. He also serves as the head of the Adventurers Guild in the royal capital. Karlova warns that students who score below 40 points will be expelled. At the same time, he declares that within his classroom there will be no distinction between peasants, commoners, and nobles. Talent, discipline, and effort are the only things that determine a student's value. Alan immediately takes those words literally and begins speaking to Cecil as an ordinary friend rather than his former mistress. The change is so sudden that Cecil reaches over and squeezes his face in the middle of class. 4 years of living as master and servant have left her completely unprepared for Alan becoming casually disrespectful overnight. The academy follows a schedule of 4 school days, followed by 2 days of rest. Afternoon training is divided according to each student's talent. Krina studies swordsmanship, Dogora trains with the axe, and Cecil attends advanced magical classes. Alan discovers that there is no teacher, department, or curriculum dedicated to summoners. Rather than becoming discouraged, he decides to study useful information from several different courses and develop his own training method. The moment their first rest day arrives, the party enters a C-rank dungeon located in the middle of the city. From the outside, it resembles an ordinary building. Inside, however, they encounter a multicolored cube that introduces itself as the General Control System. It explains that every party is transported into an independent space, allowing multiple groups to challenge the same dungeon without ever meeting one another. Alan immediately compares the system to separate game servers. Once the entire party confirms that they are ready, light fills the chamber and transports them to the first floor. Alan releases a flying summon to scout ahead, gradually revealing the labyrinth map inside his grimoire. He warns that although the monsters are low level, traps may still be present. No one is allowed to become careless simply because the dungeon is classified as C rank. A slime appears in front of them, and Cecil immediately destroys it with a fireball, earning 18 experience points. The monster's body disappears and leaves behind an E rank magic stone. Alan intends to collect even these low-level stones because they can still be used to create recovery items. Krina and Dogora are instructed to practice their own skills during the next battles. Alan then activates a support effect, surrounding his 3 companions with light and allowing each of them to feel their strength increase. The party clears the first floor quickly. Instead of continuing deeper, however, Alan chooses to leave the dungeon so he can test something even more important than immediate progress. The General Control System confirms that their completed progress will be recorded. The next time they enter, they may begin from the following floor instead of repeating everything from the start. The dungeon will also regenerate monsters and resources endlessly, regardless of how many times it has been cleared. To most adventurers, this is merely a convenient feature. To Alan, it instantly becomes an almost unlimited source of experience and magic stones. The group decides to spend every rest day pushing farther into the dungeon. Each completed floor can provide roughly 200 stones. Alan also discovers that his summoned creatures can continue fighting and accumulating experience while he attends classes at the academy. After repeated expeditions, the party finally reaches the last floor of the C-rank dungeon. An army of goblins waits ahead, led by a huge individual carrying an axe. Cecil wants to see how powerful Alan has truly become, and asks him to defeat the enemies using only his summons. Krina immediately supports the idea, because since forming the party, none of them has witnessed more than a small portion of what Alan can do. Alan reveals that he spent 35,000 D-rank magic stones producing mana recovery items, and used the resulting resources to raise enhancement to level 6. The upgraded skill can now add 500 points to 2 different attributes of every summon. Applied across an entire army, the increase becomes overwhelming. Alan summons a large force of rat-type creatures, establishes a protective formation, and orders them to attack. The swarm rushes into the goblin army and breaks its formation before the monsters can properly respond. Ordinary goblins are eliminated almost instantly. Even the massive axe-wielding leader cannot withstand the power of the enhanced summons. Krina, Cecil, and Dogora remain in the rear with almost no opportunity to participate. What should have been the final challenge of the dungeon becomes a demonstration of Alan's summoned army. When the final goblin falls, a magic circle appears in the chamber and produces a treasure chest. The reward is only an ordinary steel sword that looks almost like a toy. Even so, the victory remains an important milestone. The group has completed its first dungeon, proving that Alan's plan for long-term grinding is not merely theory, but a system that can actually function. Back at the Adventurers Guild, the four are congratulated and promoted to D rank. The steel sword is sold for 2 gold coins. Krina, Cecil, and Dagora raise their new cards in celebration, while Alan is satisfied for a different reason. The expedition produced experience, magic stones, treasure, and valuable combat data all at once. The boy who supposedly failed the examination because every growth category was ranked E has already formed a party, conquered a dungeon, and demonstrated the real meaning of hell mode. It does not make Alan weak, it simply demands that he work harder than anyone else in the world. The morning at Ratash Academy begins with news that Sword Saint Diverg will deliver a special lesson the following month, accompanied by hero Helmios. Alan is not particularly excited since he still remembers Helmios casually examining his entire status screen without permission. Karlova quickly moves on to a more urgent announcement. Summer vacation is only 3 months away, and before then, every party must conquer a dungeon using only its own members. Each group may contain no more than 8 students, and assistance from senior students or outsiders is strictly forbidden. Failure means immediate expulsion, and more seriously, students die during this examination almost every year. The classroom instantly transforms into a recruitment market. With her Sword Saint talent, Krina becomes the most desirable candidate in the room, and parties surround her like bees around honey. She turns every offer down and makes it clear that she will only join Alan's group. Looking at their current formation, Alan knows they already have a swordswoman, an axe fighter, a mage, and an army of summons. The only role still missing is a priest capable of healing. He immediately creates a recruitment notice advertising excellent benefits. 4 current members, all D-rank adventurers, 2 successfully cleared C-rank dungeons, dungeon expeditions twice a week, and every piece of loot divided equally down to the final coin. The person who responds is the blonde student who previously watched Alan's party during one of their dungeon runs. He introduces himself as Keel, a student with the priest talent who wants to hear more about the working conditions. In the academy cafeteria, Keel awkwardly claims that he has recently been fasting to purify his body. His stomach immediately growls loud enough to betray the entire story. Alan takes one look at him and realizes the boy is simply broke. Without wasting time, he places the potential recruit in front of a table covered with meat and bread. Alan's hospitality is so enthusiastic that Dagora cannot tell whether he is entertaining a guest or has just discovered the rarest treasure in a dungeon. Keel is most interested in the income. Alan explains that each member currently earns around 20 to 40 silver coins from a single dungeon expedition. Keel's eyes immediately light up, and he agrees to join them on a trial basis. During his first run, he does not participate directly in combat, yet he can still feel his body growing stronger after Krina defeats a monster. Alan explains that experience is shared among party members. Because of this system, a healer can remain safely behind the front line and continue developing without being forced to attack enemies personally. On their 3rd expedition together, the group reaches the final floor. Alan leaves most of the fighting to Krina, Cecil, and Dagora while he remains in the rear to observe Keel. Cecil opens the battle with a storm of fire, and Krina moves through the monsters like a flash of lightning. Everything proceeds smoothly until Dagora becomes too absorbed in testing a new technique and leaves his side exposed. Another attack suddenly flies toward Keel. Alan immediately summons a shield-bearing creature to block the strike. It is the first time Keel has seen proof that a summoner can do far more than overwhelm enemies. Alan's creatures can also appear at the exact moment needed to protect an ally. Krina defeats the boss, but Dagora suffers an injury to his arm. Keel immediately casts healing, surrounding the wound with light until it disappears completely. His performance confirms that he is the final piece missing from the party's formation. Alan wants to inspect his statistics, but the grimoire refuses to display them because Keel is still registered only as a temporary guest. When asked how he learned to heal so effectively, Keel admits that he desperately needed money, so he spent 2 full months repeatedly casting recovery magic until the process became second nature. Krina is both impressed and slightly jealous. She has trained for years, but still cannot activate the special skill associated with the Sword Saint talent. Dagora also declares that he will master his own abilities as soon as possible. The trial expedition does more than test Keel's usefulness. It forces everyone to recognize the distance between their current strength and the power they must achieve before being sent to the front lines. After the battle, a silver treasure chest appears containing a small mithril shield. The item sells for 15 gold coins, giving Keel 3 gold coins along with 1/5 of the collected magic stones. The moment he learns that magic stones can also be exchanged for money, a wide smile spreads across his face. Alan immediately invites him to become a permanent member of the No Life Gamers. Keel refuses without hesitation. His current plan is to work as a freelance priest, accepting temporary contracts and prioritizing whichever party offers the highest payment. He needs to earn as much money as possible to deal with a burden he is not yet prepared to explain. 1 month later, Alan's grimoire announces that his accumulated progress has finally reached another milestone. Fusion and summoning both rise to level 6, his storage expands to 60 slots, C-rank summons become available, and the awakening skill is unlocked. Alan becomes so excited that he nearly wakes everyone in the house. Rather than wait until morning, he immediately heads into a dungeon to begin experimenting. Alan fuses a C-rank bird with a C-rank fish, creating a spirit that takes the form of a small blonde girl capable of speaking. He names her Maria. She can pass through solid walls, transform into a tiny crystal, and enter places ordinary humans cannot reach. Maria also proudly explains that she can infiltrate someone's dreams and create nightmares according to Alan's instructions. Alan immediately recognizes her value as a reconnaissance unit. The ability to ruin someone's sleep is carefully recorded and placed in reserve for future emergencies. Alan next activates Awakening on a C-rank insect summon. A single creature immediately produces an enormous swarm of locusts that fills the entire room, nearly burying its own master beneath an army of wings and legs. The introduction is slightly more crowded than expected, but the potential for wide-area attacks is impossible to deny. The following morning, the students gather in the schoolyard to welcome the famous guests announced earlier. There is the one-eyed sword saint Dverg, whose scarred appearance radiates experience, Lady Sylvia with her flowing purple hair, and the handsome hero Helmios, whom Alan privately considers an extremely powerful but slightly clueless celebrity. When Dverg asks whether anyone has a question, Krina immediately raises her hand. She explains that she still cannot activate the Sword Saint's special skill and wants to become strong enough to stand beside Alan. Dverg leads her into the center of the training yard and orders her to concentrate on the skill before attacking him with everything she has. The moment Krina charges, Dverg knocks her to the ground with his enormous sword. She gets back up and attacks again, only to be sent flying a second time. Ordinary sword strikes cannot reach a warrior hardened by years of fighting on the front lines. Krina continues attacking until she is barely able to stand. Dverg asks whether she intends to give up and return to studying theory for another year. She refuses immediately. Krina remembers that Alan's hell mode slows his development to 1/100th of the normal rate, yet he has never stopped challenging himself. Whenever he reaches a limit, he searches for another method to move forward. She refuses to remain behind forever, watching Alan and Cecil use powerful abilities while she depends only on the raw strength of her sword. Dverg orders Krina to remove every unnecessary thought from her mind, focus entirely on the skill, and pour everything she has into a single strike. She drags her exhausted body forward one step at a time. Light suddenly gathers around the blade before shooting through the air. Dverg blocks the attack, but a crack appears across his training sword. Krina has finally activated Void Sword Slash. Dverg confirms that she learns far more effectively through genuine combat than through observation and written theory. The technique consumes the last of her mana, causing her to collapse immediately afterward. Once her friends restore her energy, however, she is back on her feet and smiling as though being repeatedly thrown across the training yard was the best lesson of her life. After the special training, Alan takes the group back into a dungeon and introduces Maria. His Fran summons carry everyone rapidly through the corridors, while Krina uses Void Sword Slash to eliminate targets from a distance, proving that the ability was not a one-time miracle produced by Dverg's pressure. Dagora remarks that she has become frighteningly eager to fight. After several more expeditions, every active member of the group officially reaches C rank as an adventurer. The group wants to hold a celebration and use it as Keel's official welcoming party, but he refuses. His family has recently moved to Academy City, and he cannot enjoy himself while they continue living in poverty. Alan's group immediately proposes a new arrangement. Their shared house still contains several empty rooms and needs people to help with cooking, cleaning, and maintenance. Keel's family can move in and receive regular wages for their work. All dungeon loot will be divided into 6 shares, with 1 share paying their salaries. In return, Alan will purchase all the magic stones belonging to Keel's portion. The power of friendship has apparently developed its own financial department. The agreement guarantees stable income for Keel's family while providing Alan with an additional supply of magic stones. That evening, the group visits the place where Keel currently lives. The moment the door opens, they discover a long line of young children and former servants. A blonde girl at the front introduces herself as Nina, Keel's younger sister. Alan looks around but cannot find any parents or responsible adults capable of sharing the burden Keel has been carrying for everyone in the house. Dinner begins warmly. Keel tells Alan there is no need to address him so formally because they are already friends. However, his name still does not appear inside the grimoire, proving that friendship alone is not enough for the system to recognize someone as a true companion. During the conversation, the group learns that Keel is the son of a noble family that was stripped of its status. He now lives with Nina and the former servants who had nowhere else to go. Although Nina was once raised as a young noblewoman, she firmly declares that she will work rather than become another burden on her brother. Alan explains that both he and Krina were born into peasant families. Cecil is the only true noble among them, as the daughter of Baron Granvelle. The moment that family name is spoken, Keel's attitude changes completely. He jumps to his feet and angrily declares that House Granvelle destroyed the Carnell family's entire life. The the warm dinner instantly becomes tense. The power of friendship temporarily shuts down. One servant pulls Nina behind him, while Cecil asks everyone unrelated to the dispute to leave the room so she can explain what truly happened. According to the story Keel was told, House Carnell was the innocent victim of a conspiracy created by Granvelle. Cecil presents a very different version. Keel's father attempted to seize the rights to a mithril mine located inside Granvelle territory. The Carnell side hired assassins and arranged the kidnapping of Cecil and Alan, who was still working as a servant at the time. The plan failed because Alan rescued everyone. House Granvelle then presented the complete case before the king. The conspirators were arrested and House Carnell was officially dissolved. They lost their status because of crimes they committed, not because Granvelle attacked them without cause. Keel is stunned. The version he knew never mentioned assassins or a kidnapping. Alan does not demand that he accept Cecil's story immediately. Instead, he asks Keel to describe his own past. Keel explains that he lived comfortably with his family until the age of 5. After the appraisal ceremony confirmed his priest talent, he was separated from them and sent to another town, where he received only a small allowance. When he turned 10, someone finally began preparing him to attend the academy. That support convinced Keel that his family still valued him and expected him to play an important role in restoring House Carnell. In October of the previous year, the financial support suddenly stopped. Nina and the former servants, having lost their jobs and homes, arrived and told him that House Carnell had collapsed because of a Granvelle conspiracy. Before winter ended, a mysterious messenger appeared with an offer. If Keel served on the front lines for 5 years, the king would supposedly forgive his family's crimes, restore the Carnell title, and appoint Keel as the new head of the house. Alan immediately notices that 5 years is far longer than the usual 3-year period of military service. The promise appears extremely suspicious, yet no one knows whom the messenger truly represented. Keel once hated his priest talent because it caused him to be separated from his family. Now he sees healing magic as the only path available to protect Nina and the people who remained loyal to Carnell. He apologizes to Cecil for his father's actions, but still intends to complete the promised 5 years of service. His goal is not simply to recover a noble title. Keel wants to rebuild a home where Nina and the former servants can live securely instead of surviving through the charity of strangers. What keeps Keel attached to that promise is not the pride of a fallen noble. It is the knowledge that he stands at the center of a group of people who have nowhere else to return. If he gives up, Nina and the servants lose what they believe is their final hope. Even after learning that his father was not innocent, Keel cannot simply abandon the Carnell name and everyone still depending upon it. Alan does not mock that determination. He only explains the reality of the battlefield. Half of those sent to the front lines die within 3 years. Surviving 5 years would be even more dangerous. Cecil's older brother was killed after only a few months of service. No matter how valuable a priest may be, one healer cannot compensate for every weakness alone. A real party, however, can protect each member and cover the gaps in one another's abilities. Alan therefore invites Keel to fight the Demon King's army beside them, rather than entering the battlefield alone and waiting for it to claim his life. Keel asks whether Alan merely wants to exploit his healing abilities. Alan honestly admits that the party needs a priest, but he has no intention of forcing Keel to abandon his family or his goal of restoring House Carnell. Everyone is allowed to fight for what matters most to them. Krana points out that the two objectives do not conflict. Keel can fulfill his obligation while fighting monsters beside companions who will protect him. Cecil is also willing to live and fight alongside the son of the family that once tried to harm her. Their sincerity finally breaks through Keel's defenses. He agrees to join them. The grimoire immediately rises into the air and displays a message confirming the new party member. Alan does not promise to solve every problem surrounding House Carnell. He offers something more realistic. They will gain levels together, compensate for one another's weaknesses, enter the battlefield as a team, and do everything possible to return alive. The moment Keel realizes he no longer has to carry everything alone, he finally begins to cry. The power of friendship has officially reactivated. After officially joining the no-life gamers, Keel moves Nina and the rest of his household into the party's large, shared home. The children and former servants quickly begin unpacking, while Alan checks every room and confirms that the building has enough space for everyone to live comfortably. Seeing his family finally settle somewhere safe only strengthens Keel's determination to restore House Carnell's noble status. A man claiming to be a royal messenger once promised that the family would be forgiven if Keel served on the front lines for 5 years. The more Alan hears about this arrangement, the more suspicious it sounds. He decides to investigate quietly before Keel becomes trapped in a deal he can no longer escape. The 5-person party then begins challenging a B-rank dungeon. Its structure does not look especially different from the C-rank dungeons they already cleared, but the monsters range from D to B rank, while poison traps and hidden arrows appear throughout the corridors. Cecil asks everyone to drink a resistance potion before entering. Alan deliberately refuses because he wants to test the dungeon's mechanics on himself. After opening his grimoire and examining the map, he reminds the group that only around 1/5 of the adventurers who enter this place ever completed. The party soon discovers a treasure chest sitting openly in the middle of a passage. Keel's eyes immediately light up, and he nearly charges forward before Alan grabs him by the collar. Cecil agrees that any treasure placed that conveniently has an almost perfect chance of being a trap. Maria phases inside to investigate. The chest instantly grows enormous teeth and reveals itself as a B-rank mimic. Before it can attack, Maria restrains it with purple magic and defeats it. The grimoire announces that the party has earned 20,000 experience points. Alan also confirms that after receiving enhancement, Maria can defeat a B-rank monster while using only around half of her mana. Once the mimic disappears, the real treasure chest appears. Keel opens it and discovers a mithril spear worth at least 50 gold coins. For a trap-filled dungeon, the journey is already producing excellent returns. The party continues deeper while riding on Fran. A bird-type summon accidentally steps on a black floor tile, releasing white gas throughout the corridor. Alan and every Fran immediately collapse, while Cecil, Krina, Dagora, and Keel remain conscious thanks to the resistance potions they drank earlier. When Alan wakes, he insists that he deliberately refused the potion to study the trap and was not simply being reckless. Maria explains everything that happened and uses an item created by a plant-type summon to awaken him. Alan proceeds to test the gas on several different summons. Birds, frogs, and other animal-based creatures fall asleep, while plant and spirit summons remain unaffected. He concludes that this particular sleep trap only works on animal-type summons. He also discovers that the item called Food Garnish can remove negative status effects instead of merely restoring health. To most adventurers, a dungeon is a place to earn money. To Alan, it is also a research laboratory, although this time, the main test subject happens to be his unconscious body lying in the middle of a maze. While Alan remains occupied with classifying dungeon mechanics, Dagora repeatedly swings his axe at several stone blocks. After numerous attempts, the blade finally begins glowing and smashes straight through the target. Dagora celebrates as he announces that he has activated his personal skill for the first time. The entire party congratulates him, and Alan checks the grimoire to confirm that Dagora's skill experience has genuinely increased. The final member who had not yet awakened an ability has finally discovered how to move beyond his limit. 2 months of dungeon expeditions every weekend have transformed the whole group. Krina has mastered Void Sword Slash, Dagora has awakened his first skill, Cecil's magical coordination has become increasingly precise, Keel now handles both defense and recovery, and Alan's summons cover reconnaissance, transportation, combat, and status removal. Before entering the final room, Alan reviews the party's condition one last time. Keel can now cast wide area protection in addition to healing. Krina and Dagora both possess powerful offensive skills. Cecil can eliminate groups of enemies with magic, while Alan's summons manage scouting and support. 2 months earlier, they were still testing each basic mechanic individually. Now all 5 can function as a complete party. What Alan wants to examine in the boss room is no longer the strength of each member alone, but whether the group can maintain its formation against a B-rank opponent. Inside, they discover a herd of large boars surrounding a giant boar standing in the center of a magic circle. Alan checks the grimoire and finds that Krina, Cecil, Dagora, and Keel have all reached approximately level 37 in only 2 months. Their normal growth rate is so fast that Alan, who develops 100 times more slowly, feels personally attacked by the numbers. Still, if talented people can advance this quickly, and humanity continues struggling against the Demon King's army, then the enemies waiting on the front lines clearly cannot be defeated through a few casual grinding sessions. Keel begins the battle with great protection, covering the entire party in a blue defensive barrier. Cecil immediately launches magic into the herd, while Dagora and Krina move forward to control the front line. Alan supports them with animal-type summons, and the giant boar is left to the 2 close-range fighters. Its thick armor withstands several direct attacks, but after Alan identifies a weak point, Krina closes the distance and pours her full strength into a single strike. The blade pierces the vulnerable area, bringing down the giant boar and awarding the party 24,000 experience points. A large treasure chest appears after their victory, containing a pair of scarletite gauntlets. Scarletite is even harder than mithril, and the moment Keel hears that the item may be worth several hundred gold coins, he embraces it as though he has already found a mountain of treasure. Alan knows his friend genuinely needs money to support his family, although Keel's natural affection for profit is clearly powerful as well. Despite the smooth victory, Alan does not underestimate the B-rank dungeon. The boss's strength only gives him a clearer idea of how dangerous the Demon King's forces must be. He decides that every party member must reach the highest possible level before graduation. Over the following months, Alan uses Maria and his summoned army to hunt monsters and collect resources almost continuously. His stockpile reaches approximately 34,760 C-rank magic stones, while the party's funds rise to 425 gold coins. He uses that capital to place an order for 310,000 D-rank stones, although the guild can supply only 50,000 per month. The shared fund is also used to purchase stronger equipment, a carriage, and a magical clock that helps the group track time while exploring dungeons. The party passes its final examinations, and by early August, they have conquered a second B-rank dungeon and officially entered a 2-month summer vacation. While most students consider the break a chance to rest, Alan sees it as an opportunity to accelerate their training. Before returning to the grind, he sends summoned birds carrying letters and recorded voices back to his hometown. His family recognizes him immediately, while letters from Krena and Dogora are also delivered to their relatives. Through the conversation, Alan learns that his younger sister possesses no special talent. Rodan is preparing to become the chief of a newly founded frontier village, and Alan's family plans to move there the following April to help develop the land. The families of Krena and Dogora intend to join them. The news puts Alan at ease, although he still advises his father to learn how to read and write before accepting leadership. Otherwise, every official document in the new village will depend entirely on Rodin's memory. Alan later contacts Viscount Granville and reports that Keel has become a reliable companion. He also explains the promise that House Carnell will supposedly be restored after Keel completes 5 years of frontline service. The Viscount confirms that the king does possess the authority to restore a noble title, but no such plan has ever been discussed at court. If the person behind the promise already knew about Keel's priest talent, then the entire arrangement may be a trap. Healers are extremely scarce on the front lines because most remain in safer territories treating civilians and wounded soldiers. As a result, many nobles attempt to keep priests near their children, sometimes forcing them to work until exhaustion simply to increase the young noble's chance of survival. The fact that Keel was separated from his family immediately after the appraisal ceremony, followed years later by a suspicious 5-year promise, suggests that someone may have planned to turn him into a useful tool from a very young age. For now, however, it remains only a theory based on the available evidence. More troublingly, the supposed messenger also told Keel that House Granville was responsible for destroying the Carnell family. Someone is clearly trying to create hatred between the two sides. Alan considers asking the king directly, but Viscount Granville immediately takes responsibility for the investigation. His family's honor has been used to deceive a child, and he refuses to ignore it. Alan agrees to leave the political work to someone with the status and connections to handle it properly. His own task is to become strong enough that no one can force Keel onto the battlefield alone. Alan understands that saving Keel from the conspiracy will require more than a warning. Without evidence, Keel may still choose to believe the only promise offering him a chance to restore his family. The Viscount's investigation therefore must not only identify the person responsible, but also determine whether the king ever approved the agreement or whether it was merely bait designed to bind a young priest to years of military service. Taking advantage of the summer break, the party quickly clears a third B-rank dungeon and upgrades its adventurer cards to B rank. Everyone around them is stunned that a group of first-year students is progressing faster than many experienced adventurers. The guild employee nevertheless warns that A-rank dungeons are completely different. Very few parties have successfully explored them. The final bosses are exceptionally powerful, and the interior may contain traps that have never been documented. She also introduces the auction system, where adventurers can sell valuable loot or purchase rare equipment. Alan immediately asks about mana regeneration rings. Unfortunately, she has never seen one appear, although stamina restoration and poison resistance rings are occasionally sold. The information does not discourage him. Alan decides the party will study every available record, improve its equipment, and attempt an A-rank dungeon. The expedition quickly becomes an extended camping trip underground. The group sleeps inside a defensive ring formed by summons, while Hawkins scouts through the night without locating an exit. The map is so enormous that even Alan admits the dungeon is unreasonably large. They spend 3 or 4 days simply navigating a single floor. Dogora begins complaining that he misses home, while Maria reports that several monsters approached during the night, but were eliminated before Wally needed to use its explosive skill. After packing their camp, the party climbs onto Fran and resumes the march. They soon encounter 2 Orc Kings and a Cyclops. Alan divides the targets, assigning one Orc King to Krena and the other to Dogora, while Cecil supports them with fire spears. B-rank monsters no longer place the group under overwhelming pressure. Dogora nearly defeats his target and happily announces that the battle is almost over. Then the Cyclops suddenly counterattacks, launching him away from the formation and directly onto a purple magic circle. Karina recognizes it as a teleportation trap, but the warning comes too late. Dogora and Cecil vanish in front of Alan. Keel immediately warns that losing both a frontline fighter and the party's mage at the same time puts the entire formation in danger. Alan orders Krena to finish the Cyclops, then creates multiple copies of Maria. He gives each one a life leaf and a magic seed before sending them through the surrounding walls in every direction to search for the missing pair. In another section of the dungeon, Cecil and Dogora are thrown directly in front of a gigantic red monster accompanied by 2 serpent-like creatures. Dogora is already injured, but he still places himself between Cecil and the enemies. Cecil repeatedly supports him with fire spears, while the massive creature's counterattacks eventually smash Dogora against the floor. He is forced to use his final recovery item. Cecil checks her own bag and discovers that she has run out as well. Even so, both continue fighting, knowing that one mistake could leave them dead inside the labyrinth. Just as the situation approaches its limit, one One of the Mariahs locates them and activates possession, releasing a purple cloud that surrounds the enemies. She immediately gives Cecil and Dagora the life leaf and magic seed. The wide area effects restore 1,000 health and 1,000 mana to every party member within range. Through Maria's eyes, Alan confirms that both of them are still alive and sends instructions for them to remain in position until rescue arrives. The relief lasts only briefly. Two white-armored monsters appear soon afterward. Cecil and Dagora decide to eliminate them and fortify their position, while Maria remains behind to provide support. Elsewhere, Alan orders Krena and Keel to hold on tightly before commanding Fran to activate divine speed. The summons race through the corridors at maximum velocity, but even with their companion's exact location known, the maze repeatedly blocks the shortest routes. Dagora absorbs direct attacks to give Cecil time to cast. Maria uses curses to delay the enemies, and Alan watches the map in frustration while forcing Fran to run faster. Knowing someone's location does not mean reaching them will be simple. Before the rescue team can arrive, the silhouette of an enormous red and black monster emerges from the far end of the corridor. It now stands directly before Cecil and Dagora, who are already close to exhaustion. For the first time since entering the academy, the no-life gamers are no longer racing for experience points or treasure. They are racing against time to keep their companions alive.